What's up, guys? Welcome back to Just JP. My name is Justin, and oh, hold on. I think I left something in the oven. Be right back. Let's see. Hello there. Ow. Looks like it's ready. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Just JP. My name is Justin, and today we are ending Foxtrot with the absolutely amazing, so I've heard, Supper's Ready, their 23-minute long epic. I've been looking forward to this. You guys have been looking forward to this. Probably the most highly requested song that's been on the channel, so it's finally time to go ahead and have our dinner. Now, we will also be doing Horizons in this video. I put up a poll, and a lot of you had said that this is a nice prelude basically into Supper's Ready. So I am going to follow your advice and just combine both of them. If I do have anything to say about Horizons, like right in that moment between Horizons and Supper's Ready, then I'll stop the video and I will talk about it. If not, if there's something that I can hold till the end, then I'll go ahead and just wait and just listen to the whole thing, all of side B of the album, and then I'll come back to it at the end. And there's probably going to be a lot of discussion at the end of this video. So this video is actually going to be just the initial reaction of my first listen, as all the other songs on this channel are. And then later on, I'll actually record a final thoughts video for you guys for this song, Supper's Ready, and also for the whole album of Foxtrot. Because I feel with longer songs like this, one, I need multiple listens to really get it, but also I want to give you like final thoughts on an epic song like this. I'll give you my favorite lyrics, my favorite member or performance in this particular song, and some of the other things that you had already seen in the Trick of the Tail Final Thoughts video. I don't have a ton to say before we get into it, but I do want to extend my thanks to really all of you. You guys have absolutely catapulted this channel, catapulted me musically to just a whole nother level. The way that you guys have came in and brought the community to me, and like wrapped yourselves around me basically, and just given me all this information, all the background. I do read most of it. Pretty much 98% of it I do read. I may not always have something interesting to say back to you, but I do read it, and trust me when I say it's much appreciated. And if you have been enjoying these videos, the best way that you can support me is just to share the videos, share them with your friends, share them on the band pages, share them, just blast it out there. This community is already awesome, and I just want it to grow because here on this channel specifically, we have like a nice core group of subscribers and just people that enjoy watching the videos and listening to the music, hearing someone else listen to the music, perhaps from a different perspective, and even exploring more bands and more artists. Anyways, after this, I don't know what album I'm going to do next. I'm open to suggestions. I don't want to keep on doing this. I want to listen to the music. I don't want to talk too much in the beginning, but let it be known that I am very, very thankful for you guys in the community. And is there a better day for this video to be released? I mean, is it? You guys can stuff yourself on turkey, and while you're stuffing yourself, then when you're stuffed and you're laying on the couch and you're just like even-keeled, you can come watch the video. It's been a pleasure, but the journey is not over. So without further ado, you can join me on Twitter. You can join me in the comments down below. We're going to listen to Horizons first and just let it lead into Supper's Ready, the grand finale of the album. Hope that you guys are having a great day. Let's do this. This is Genesis with Horizons leading into Supper's Ready.
walking across the sitting room. I turn the television off. Sitting beside you, I look into your eyes as the sound of motor cars fades in the night time. I swear I saw your face change. It didn't seem quite right. And it's hello babe, with your guardian hair so blue. Hey my baby, don't you know our love is true? Coming closer with our eyes, a distance falls around our bodies. Out in the garden, the moon seems very bright. 6 saintly shrouded men move across the lawn slowly. The 7th walks in front with a cross held high in hand. And it's, hey babe, your supper's waiting for you. Hey my baby, don't you know our love is true? I've been so far from here, far from your warm arms. It's good to feel you again. It's been a long, long time. Isn't it? Who looks after the farm with water clear? He cares for his harvest. I know a fireman who looks after the farm. Share his beans. Wearing feelings on our faces, what our faces took a rest. We walked across the fields to see the children of the West. We saw a host of dark-skinned warriors standing still below the ground. Waiting for battle. Fights begun, they've been released, killing for peace. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. And they're giving me a wonderful potion, 'cause I cannot contain my emotion. I'm feeling low, I'm feeling good. Something tells me I better activate my prayer capsule. Today's a day to celebrate the foe have met their fate. Order for rejoicing and dancing has come from our warlord. Wandering in the chaos the battle has left, we climb up the mountain of human flesh to a plateau of green grass and green trees full of life. A young figure sits still by a pool. He's been stamped human bacon by some butchery tool. He is you. Social security took care of this lad. We watch in reverence as Narcissus is turned to a flower. A flower? If you go down to Willow Farm to look for butterflies, flutterbugs, gutterflies, open your eyes. It's full of surprise. Everyone lies like the fox on the rocks. And the musical box. Oh, there's mom and dad and good and bad, and everyone's happy to be here. There's Winston Churchill dressed in drag. He used to be a British flag. Plastic bag, what a drag! The frog was a prince. The prince was a brick. The brick was an egg. The egg was a bird.
Wild egg was sweet little thing, they're hot on your tail.
Haven't you heard?
Protect you to a human being.
Yes, we're happy as fish, and gorgeous as geese, and wonderfully clean in the morning. We've got everything. We're growing everything. We've got some in, we've got some out. We've got some wild things floating about. Everyone, we're changing everyone. You name them all, we've had them here. And the real stars are still to appear. Feel your body melt.
Mom to mom to mom.
To dad, dad in the office, dad in the office. You're all full of all. Dad to dad,
Mom to mom. Mom diddly washing, mom diddly washing.
you're all full of all. Let me hear your lies. We're living this up to the eyes. Mama, I want you now. As you listen to my voice, to look for hidden doors, tidy floors, more applause. You've been here all the time. Like it or not, like what you got, you're under the soil. It's deep in the soil. So we'll end with a whistle and end with a bang, and all of us fit in our places. gonna blow right down inside your soul. Like a rust with the broken glass, reflects a full moon. In love, he's writing the lyrics of a brand new tune. And it's, hey babe, with your guardian eyes so blue. Hey my baby, don't you know our love is true? I've been so far from here, far from your loving arms. Now I'm back again. And maybe it's gonna work out fine. Can't you feel our souls ignite? Shedding ever-changing colors in the darkness of the fading night. Like the river joins the ocean as the germ in the sea grows. We're finally being freed to get back home. There's an angel standing in the sun. And he's crying with a loud voice. This is the supper of the mighty one. Lord of lords, King of kings, has returned to lead his children home, to take them to the new Jerusalem.
All right, now I see what the hype was about. Now I understand, I fully understand what the hype was about. Let me say that that was an absolute journey of a song. So when listening to a song of this length, for really to me like 18 minutes and up, especially, when it gets into that epic timeline, I personally take into consideration how well the song flows, how seamless is it in its transitions, because in songs like this, there's typically multiple parts, and especially in Supper's Ready, there's several distinct sections in the song. How well do those flow? Do they make sense? Do they work as a whole? Or are they just making this song just to make this long epic song, you know, just to say that, hey, we made this giant prog rock masterpiece. It's long, has a lot of complicated stuff in it. Here you go. Put us among the giants of prog. And I feel that that's the wrong approach in making a song like this. But with Supper's Ready, every single transition, every single one, to me, is nailed. Just absolutely perfect. They work so well in movement. At no point in the song did any of the transitions feel jarring. Did they feel abrupt? Everything worked perfectly natural, perfectly organic. That's my favorite thing and the most notable aspect about this song. Because I've listened to a lot of songs of this length. I've listened to a lot of Dream Theater, Symphony X, other progressive metal bands, and other, songs like that. So I'm very used to this kind of epic. But what I can definitely appreciate about Genesis is that nothing came out of left field about it. Through all the weird concepts, through all the interesting musical changes, like if you take one section and look at it compared to another, like Willow's Farm compared to Apocalypse in 9/8, yeah, they're totally distinct sections. But the transitions in getting from one to the next, everything works really perfectly. I don't think there's a bad example of a transition in this song. And really with this album, I'm really beginning to hear every single member shines so much in this song. Like a lot. Everyone gets their moments. Everyone has something that they can do and something that they bring to the table for dinner. Because when you have a group of talented musicians like Genesis, where each one of them excels and is a master of their instruments, sometimes it may be hard to bring these four mega minds together to get them to do something, to create a piece of work. But look at how they've done before in the album. Look at how they've done in Trick of the Tail. Look at how they've done here in Supper's Ready. Each one of them brings so much to the table, and that goes along with the writing credits because they're all credited with writing this song, or at least writing different sections and bringing it in to the song, and they all work so well. And while I can't personally say how close they all are to each other at this particular time, it seems to me that they had to have been extremely close, not only in their friendship, sure, but musically minded. They all had to be of the same musical mind to bring something 20 plus minutes together in such a way that, to me, it's kind of absolutely perfect, I mean, there's a few 20-minute plus songs that I really like. I really like Octavarium by Dream Theater. I really like The Odyssey by Symphony X. This is right up there. I like this a lot. And before I continue into Supper's Ready, I at least want to talk a little bit about Horizons. I know that I'm not going to have much to say about it, but I love how if you take this as it's supposed to be, as an album, but also as the beginning of a side. This is the beginning of side B. And I like how Horizons acts as kind of an interlude, kind of an intermission between Coastliners and then Supper's Ready. And it works out because you have the theme of the sea from Coastliners. So I think of like being on an open sea, you're looking over the horizons of the open ocean, and you just have this very beautiful classical acoustic guitar playing that's going on. And I love the way that you hear the strings picked up in the production of it. So this is already very beautiful. This is an absolutely beautiful guitar playing here. It's funny how as the album progresses, I get to hear more of Hackett. I just love the intimacy of the strings and how they're being played here. And like, listen to the transition. I think it's perfect in ending what had ended on side A, and then eventually what it leads to with Supper's Ready in the next song.
Walking across the sitting room, I turn the
I think that's great. And even though Horizons doesn't literally lead in to Supper's Ready, I still like how the acoustic guitar and that classical playing is continuing from Horizons into the intro of Supper's Ready. It's carried right in. Getting into Peter Gabriel's singing, first of all, this song is probably the best I've heard him. He does everything in this song. He does the soft singing, absolutely phenomenal. He does his high and very powerful notes, especially near the ending when he says to take them to the New Jerusalem, and that whole climax. He really pushes his voice. This is one of the moments where I feel he really pushes his voice and extends it beyond his maybe comfort level or beyond his limits. And there were a few other moments like that in here, which at this moment I can't recall because, it's a lot to take in on a first listen. But there were a few moments like that where he really pushes and strains his voice. And not in a bad way, but you can hear the power beneath it.
It didn't seem quite right, and it's hello, babe.
I love that. I love that right there. The song begins absolutely beautifully, but there's something slightly off about it. There's something off-putting. There's something weird to it. And I love how just that deep note kind of comes in when he says, I saw your face change. It didn't seem quite right. And when he says that word change, we can hear that in the music.
Seem quite right, and it's
And then when it gets back to hello babe, like I love your eyes, that kind of thing, the music gets light again. It lightens up and it lightens the mood. Almost like there's a relief in her blue eyes, even though there's something strange going on around that. I love how all the instruments start to build up too. Starts just Gabriel and Hackett, but then little bits are just added in. This is what creates that perfect flow. There's almost a slight playfulness to it. That was part of Lover's Leap. I'm looking at the different sections, so I'll try to describe them as I go. But then if we move into the next section, which is the Guaranteed Eternal Sanctuary Man, which is from 348 to 543. I really like this section, by the way. This is where we start to get our initial build of our initial beats. Right there, I love how all the notes just come together. Everything, Hackett, Mike, Tony, everyone comes together. Phil, I'm not forgetting Phil. Everyone just comes together right there, and when they all come together, instead of playing separately, it's beautiful. It's magical when they all come in together, and they're doing what they just do best. They create their music. And just a side point, because I'm going to forget this, like I've mentioned, one of the bands that I fell in love with when I first got into progressive music, like in high school and college, was Dream Theater. And I was a huge, huge fan of Dream Theater. And it's funny how, like, now going back and listening to Genesis and the beginnings of prog rock and progressive music, it's funny how I can, like, hear the influences. Like, I'm listening to this song and I'm like, Dream Theater totally, like, was influenced by Genesis and their songs and the way that they wrote. And their music, it's so funny. Like, it's just random. I know it has nothing really to do with this song. It's just something I noticed for myself. I love that note. I love that note so much. This part sounds like Dream Theater to me a little bit, or Dream Theater sounds like, you know what I mean. And I like how before, when we first opened this song, like, it was a nice setting. Husband and wife, they're sitting in their room, I'm assuming, and then slowly things start to kind of seem off. But I like how, like, the darkness of that section is kind of forgotten about for a little bit as it moves into this section, and I think the next as well, where it's a little lighter, it's a little more joyful, I guess you could say. Like, there's a bounce to it, there's fun to it. I just like how it's so light, it's just so light. And then here's kind of where we first start getting a little bit of a more rock edge to the song. And it's funny because the message gets a little more violent, but the music is still relatively light. This I really like. This is good. I really like this part. That just gets you ready. I love that. That's just a perfect transition. Same thing. Like, the transitions, the movement of this song, it's perfect. This is an example of... Hold on for a second. This is a perfect example of movement in song. If you're going to do progressive rock, if you're going to take a long song and you're going to do it, this is the way to do it. Make your transitions work. Make it so that it's fun to listen to. Make it so that it flows well. And as we move from this section, which was the third part, called Incontin and Itzakon and their band of merry men, we move into the next section, which is number 4, How Dare I Be So Beautiful. And the transition is coming up. Just fades out. A little sound coming in to begin. Right. See how this sound just like, the earlier section fades out, This new one fades in,
the chaos,
but they still maintain that same softness in the atmosphere.
climb.
And a lot of times I think that's how these transitions work so well, is that it's not just an abrupt change, that even if it works abruptly, it seems that in this song they employ more kind of fade outs and fade ins with other songs from section to section. And that's what makes those transitions work so well. You know, you end soft and then you begin soft in two different sections. If you put them together, you can pretty much make them fade in and out seamlessly. I like how this section in part 4, How Dare I Be So Beautiful, the section before it was basically a battle and it was a little more high energy. This one begins desolate with Peter Gabriel singing over the sound, and it's gentle, but it's almost, it's like he's crying. It's a sad picture that we're getting here. But I like how it works after a battle, after a giant climax, after something that's so chaotic. We get this little piece of serenity, as depressing as it may be, from the viewpoint of the aftermath of a battle. And same thing, we're about to get another change from here into Willow Farm. I love this. This is
A flower? If you go down to Willow Farm.
See, it's funny because even though that is an abrupt change, it stops the section of flower and then boom, right into the next section. It still works very well. The way that they ended How Dare I Be So Beautiful, and then had a conclusion to it, had the transition line of a flower, which works in that space, and then get right into this part, Willow Farm. I think that's awesome. It almost reminds me a little bit of on A Trick of the Tail, how Entangled slows down, it stops at the end with that beautiful solo, and then just pounds right into Squonk. It's the same kind of shift. Before I go further, I just want to say that in taking like this song section by section by section, my two favorite sections of this song are the next two, Willow Farm and Apocalypse in 9/8. These two are my favorites, and these are like where the song really like, it was already good, but that's where it's just like picked up. It really got me interested, and I like really started enjoying it. You know, like I was really enjoying it before, but here I was really enjoying it.
Open your eyes.
I love his singing in here. Very like old English.
This Winston Churchill dressed in drag. He used to be a British flag.
His singing is just like much more powerful. Not that it was never powerful before, but I feel like here he's just putting in work, basically is what I'm getting at. And I just love the tempo of this part of the song. I just love the boom, 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 boom. Pretty catchy rhythm. I've mentioned this before going through the album, but his delivery, sure, it brings theatrics to the music and to the song, but never in like this off-putting way, never in a way that's like weird. You know, like it adds so much character, it adds so much to the song that makes it more enjoyable to listen to. It's those little nuances that just make it. See? Same thing, like the way that they build up into this transition just works. The riffing is just a little more direct, a little heavier, but same thing, matching with the darkness of this section and what it's representing. Oh, and I love the flute, by the way. I went back, but I really love the flute in Willow's Farm. This is probably one of the reasons why it's one of my favorite sections. It's just so relaxing before you get into you know what comes afterward. After it, not after wit. First of all, awesome, absolutely phenomenal drumming. Absolutely phenomenal drumming in this section by Phil. But for me personally, I've never been great with time signatures. Like, I'm used to hearing them a lot in music, but I've never been personally like great at like counting them. I love Wikipedia and Genius, all these places. I love them because they had it simply laid out right here, and I could just follow along and count with it. So the whole time I was like, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Like the whole time I was going through that in my head, I'm like, I'm catching on to it. By the way, that's probably something I'm going to like study on my off time. I'm interested in that, and I just want to have that knowledge for myself so that, you know, sometimes I can follow these songs a little bit better. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to learn a little bit here and there off camera. And it's funny because that particular rhythm lasts for a pretty long time in this section, but it's all the little subtle changes between Banks and Hackett that make it not tiresome. Like, I never felt bored during that section because I enjoyed the pace and the rhythm so much back and forth. So I was never like, okay, this needs to just hurry up and end. Like, I was entertained and enjoying it the whole time as it went on. They're getting good use out of that Mellotron, by the way, in this album in particular. And then as we get into the next section, which is As Sure as Ace is Ace. This is a perfect climax because once again, you got the shifts in tone. We had the heavier, slightly darker Apocalypse in 9/8, and moving into this section, Eggs, it gets back into that lighter tone that it originally began with. And at the end of Apocalypse, before it gets into this section, it repeats some of the lyrics from that beginning section where he says, "And it's hey babe, with your guardian eyes so blue. Hey my baby, don't you know our love is true? I've been so far from here, far from your loving arms. Now I'm back again, and babe, it's gonna work out fine." After this huge journey, they're possibly separated in this thing. They're back together. The light returns. The light tone wins out on the dark tone, as you can see through the ending of the song. The light wins over the dark, basically, and it's a happy ending. It's a nice climax to the song. Listen to that singing. That's what I'm talking about, Gabriel. That's what I'm talking about. And one thing that I think is super important, especially with songs of a longer duration, is catharsis, climax, resolution. In Apocalypse, we're getting the climax of the song. And it's a darker, slightly heavier climax, which for progressive rock and progressive metal, and really classical jazz, I mean, really anything, the climax is usually the heaviest part because that's where everything is coming together. Everything in the setting and in the plot has been building up to this point, and this is where everything's clashing. Battles are fought, battles are won, battles are lost. And I'm not just speaking lyrically and in the message. I'm talking musically as well. This is where everything comes together for the big finale, and then the resolution. Battery died. I've already had to change my battery twice. This is where you, as the listener, I, as the listener, should get some sort of release. That, to me, is the key word when it comes to a resolution in a song, when it comes to a resolution really in anything, story, movie, film, script, etc., etc. You should have some sort of release after this chaotic, stressful, in a sense, moment in the song. The resolution should make you feel good, should make you feel happy that you came out on the other side of this song. And I think it works absolutely perfectly here, the way that at the end, you are coming out of the Apocalypse in 9/8 into a much more happier resolution, a happier resolve. Like, this is celebratory. If I had to put this ending into one word, it's celebratory. This is the celebration of the song, of the movement, of really everything in it. Now, I'm reading just a few articles on the background of the song, some interviews, and on just other information so I can kind of understand the song a little more. And I thought that this was really interesting. This is from Louder Sound, and it's behind the story of this song. And the producer for this album, David Hitchcock, he said that his role was essentially a facilitator. And he says that his greatest contribution to this track was explaining that they didn't need to play it all the way through to record it, that we could do it section by section with crossfades and edits, then put it all together. And that is exactly what you hear when you're listening to this song. It's the fade outs and the fade ins, the edits, as he says, the crossfades, everything works well. And I think I agree with him. That is a really big role in taking all these pieces that are very unique and being able to put them together, being able to glue them together and hide the fact that they're glued together. And then he says that allowed them to concentrate for the 3 or 4 minutes of each section and get the best possible performance while also allowing them to bring in different sounds for each section rather than playing it through with one long homogeneous song. I don't know what their process is usually like when writing an album, when writing a song really of a longer length, but I think that that's really interesting how they were allowed to just concentrate on one particular section, make that the best it can be. You could even argue, make that section a song, right? You're literally just writing a standalone song. When we get this at the best quality it can be and we're all happy, then we can move on to another section, and then we'll work on the transition part of it later in the production side of it. And then even reading further into it, Tony Banks said that when we started it, we thought we were writing a kind of follow-up to the musical box, and it was going along quite nicely. This is the important part. Then we had this pretty song, Willow Farm, on its own, and thought, what if we suddenly went from there into this ugly descending chord sequence? No one would be expecting it. And once we got into that, we thought, well, we're here now, let's carry on with freedom and see where this leads us. So I think it's really interesting that the first piece of the song was Willow Farm. And when you listen to it, really when you listen to a lot of these sections, they sound like their own self-contained song. But I appreciate how they started with a song, with an idea, did it, and it sounded great. But this is where the progressive comes in progressive rock and progressive music. What if we take this and just keep writing? Let's just use our freedom, our musical freedom, like he said, and just keep going. What if we went from this pretty and really nice, peaceful piece of music and somehow shifted it into something a little darker, something a little edgier? Okay, let's do that. How are we going to do the transition? Not quite sure. We'll figure that out. And that's where the producer, David Hitchcock, comes in, saying, don't worry about that. We'll figure that part out. Just work on those individual sections. I think that that's a really interesting way for them to have written this piece as a whole. And I think that this is a huge credit, not only to Genesis, absolutely, themselves, but to David Hitchcock in the way that he was able to seamlessly bring all these sections together and make it sound coherent. I think it's funny reading the interviews how Hackett's talking about, Peter's experience with his wife and everything, and how he's just like, no, there was some drugs that were going on with him. For me personally, I can tell that it's a grower. I enjoyed it already on its own, but I can tell you right now, on my next few listens over the next week or two, I'm going to really like this a lot. I can already tell. Sometimes you listen to a song on the first listen, and you kind of already have an idea that upon repeated listens, you're either going to love it more or you may not like it as much. I see this definitely moving towards me liking it a lot more, actually. And it's songs like this where there's so much work that's involved, or there's so many details in the music itself, that you'll be listening for a long time and you'll always find something new. You'll always hear something new. And I love music like that. Not only is it interesting from the musician's point of view and the band's, but it's so satisfying to listen to it. When you can listen to a song, and I'm sure many of you guys can relate, listening to Genesis for several years, I'm sure that you guys can relate to always hearing something new in the music. Upon repeated listening, you're like, oh, I didn't notice that before. I know when we did Watcher of the Skies, someone had mentioned that they didn't realize the Morse code pattern in there, and they've been listening to the song for a long time. That's part of what makes music like this timeless. The ability for something relatively old to always sound new to the listener. And I'm just reading a little bit on the background of the performance itself, and I'm reading about the costumes, and it's really interesting about all the costumes. I'm seeing some of the Lego figures. I kind of want that Foxtrot Peter Gabriel with the fox head figure. That's kind of cool. But going back to the story itself, I like how during the apocalypse section, he's dressed in all black, and then as it moves into the last section, he's now dressed in all white, basically signifying the light wins against the dark. I like how they introduce, how Peter introduces the theatrical side and the costumes into the song, into their live acts. Now I'm reading a little bit more about the story. It seems like, from what I'm reading, it basically is just describing, story-wise, a couple's journey through the book of Revelation in the Bible, and kind of seeing all these different things happening, and it seems they're kind of separate at one point in their journey, and that's why at the ending they come back together and he's so happy to see her again. And it's funny, when I first had heard of this song, and before I was really introduced to anything regarding this song, this album at all, I thought that Supper's Ready, on my initial just thinking, was talking about the that picture I had used before, the Last Supper, Supper's Ready, You can imagine like Jesus with the apostles around the table, and supper's ready, meaning like this is their last night before Jesus is killed. Like it's time basically for these events to happen. That was kind of my first like idea of what this could be. But I'm reading now on Genius, and I'm just looking at like some of the notes for the lyrics. Near the end of the song, where it says, "There's an angel standing in the sun, and he's crying with a loud voice, 'This is the supper of the mighty one,'" which would be supper's ready. It goes to Revelation 19:17 in the King James Version, where it says, "And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls," birds, "that fly in the midst of heaven, 'Come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great God.'" The birds were used basically to like eat the dead bodies of God's enemies. So supper's ready is really the victory of light over the dark. God saying, supper's ready. Clean it up. Throughout the whole song, you're getting a lot of not only biblical references, but historical references. And then you even get references to like Greek mythology with like Narcissus. I love Greek mythology, by the way. Like mythology was something always that I've been interested in. I just love reading it and learning about it. And I think it's funny how it kind of turns like in that section when it's talking about Narcissus, how, you know, you're walking through this field and they see a young figure sitting by the pool. He's been stamped human bacon by some butchery tool, and it says he is you. Now, Narcissus in the mythology, he fell in love with his reflection in the water, and he went into the water and drowned. He died. In the Narcissus myth, after he dies, he becomes a flower, or at least a flower sprouts where he died in some versions. And I just love the section where it says, a flower. Like, what? I like the references to their other songs. On the Willow Farm section, he says, "Like the fox on the rocks," and the musical box, the fox on the rocks from the album cover, and the musical box, one of their other songs. I think it was from Nursery Crime, if I remember correctly. Yeah, there's a lot of references in here that honestly are a little beyond me, and I could sit here and like look at every single one, but this video right now, it's already like an hour and a half. For me, unedited, I've been here for an hour and a half going through it, and I think I've gone through it. I just want to make sure that there's nothing else that I want to talk about that I noticed, but this was a great song. I understand. And then I don't feel at any point in this song was anything show-offy just to feel like they needed to show off. Everything just worked perfectly. And that goes along with my comments about the song being seamless, being natural. Not, you know, the parts that were more technical didn't sound like they were being technical just to do it. This is a great song that shows just how excellent musicians they are, not just physically and talent-wise, like, you know, what they can do with their hands and their fingers, but also what they can do with their mentality, with the mentality of their musicianship and creating not only just songs, but really like with Supper's Ready especially, arts of work that are timeless and lasting decades. Guys, thank you so much for watching. It has been an absolute journey doing this song. I would definitely listen to this. This is awesome. I have a feeling, like I said before, that it's going to keep growing and growing in connection with me. I enjoyed this a lot. I mean, yeah, it was perfect. Yeah, I've said my piece about it. I'm not exactly sure how long after this video goes out, but I will do a final thoughts video, like I said, on this particular song and on the album as a whole of Foxtrot. You can start leaving me, you know, suggestions about maybe what album to do next. I'm actually probably going to do a different band album this time. Trust me, I love Genesis and I want to do more, but I also want to have variety and, you know, I want to try and make everyone at least kind of happy in what I do here. I may do another band. I'm not sure yet. I'm still undecided, but I'm very open for suggestions. Let me know in the comments down below. If you did enjoy this video at all, as I mentioned at the outset, the best thing you can do to help me out is just share the video, like it. You can subscribe if you want. You can do all that kind of stuff. But the sharing part is absolutely key for me. I hope that you guys are having the best day that you can. I hope that your week has been okay. I hope that your weekend, if it's coming, hope it's a great one. If it's not quite there yet, and you're still in the middle of the week and it's dragging, you're almost there. You're going to make it. You're going to make it. You guys can join me on Twitter. You guys can join me in the comments down below. And I will absolutely see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.